Number 1. It started on a night when the wind howled like a living thing, rattling the windows of Emma's small house. She had just returned from a late shift at the bookstore, the streets deserted and cloaked in an unnatural darkness. The streetlights flickered weakly, casting long, trembling shadows that seemed to move on their own. Emma's footsteps echoed on the pavement as she approached her home, keys clutched tightly in her hand. Suddenly, a sharp noise made her freeze. A raspy breath, like someone struggling for air, came from the thick bushes near her porch. Her heart slammed in her chest as she scanned the shadows. From the darkness, a figure emerged, tall, unnaturally thin, with limbs that bent at strange angles. His skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched tight over bones like brittle branches. His face was hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask, but the empty eye holes seemed to glow faintly with a sick yellow light. Emma gasped and stumbled backward. The figure didn't move, just tilted its head slowly, like a predator studying its prey. She yanked her door open and slammed it shut, locking it frantically. Inside, the house felt suffocatingly silent. Emma tried to steady her breath, but then, knock, 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 came a sudden pounding on the front door. She jumped, heart racing wildly. Who could it be at this hour? She peeked through the peephole. No one. She backed away and the knocking stopped. Then, from the back window, a faint scratching began. Emma's skin crawled as she approached, pulling the curtain aside with trembling fingers. There he was, face inches from the glass. Those glowing eyes locked on her like a ravenous animal. The mask was cracked, revealing a horrific, scarred face beneath, twisted into a grotesque grin. Emma screamed and slammed the window shut. That night, she barely slept. At 3:17 a.m., the phone rang. Emma jolted awake, the shrill ringing slicing through the silence. She answered, hearing only heavy breathing on the other end. Then, a whisper, "I'm inside." The blood drained from her face. She bolted upright, listening. Footsteps crept slowly down the hallway outside her bedroom door, soft, uneven, like a distorted march. The door handle rattled, click, turned slowly. Emma pressed herself against the wall, frozen in terror. The door creaked open, and a shadow slipped inside. She held her breath as the figure loomed in the doorway. Mask cracked, eyes wild and empty, lips pulling into a cruel smile. Suddenly, the power went out, plunging her into pitch black. In the darkness, she felt a cold, clammy hand brush her arm. She screamed, spinning around wildly, only to hit empty air. The lights flickered back on. The intruder was gone. Over the next several days, the stalking escalated. Emma found grotesque dolls left on her doorstep, each more mutilated than the last. Glass eyes gouged out, limbs twisted at impossible angles. Sometimes, the dolls moved inside the house, appearing in places she was sure she had checked thoroughly. One evening, Emma found a message smeared on her bathroom mirror in what looked like dried blood. Soon, terrified, Emma installed cameras around her house, but the footage revealed nothing. The figure never entered on camera. He was always just out of frame, lurking in the shadows. The scratching at the windows continued nightly, sometimes accompanied by faint whispering voices in a language she couldn't understand. The local police were baffled, unable to find any evidence, and told her she might be imagining things. But Emma knew the truth. One night, the terror reached its peak. She awoke to the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps outside her bedroom window. Heart pounding, she peered into the darkness and saw the figure again, closer than ever, his mask shattered, revealing that horrific, mutilated face. His eyes locked onto hers with a madness that chilled her soul. Suddenly, the figure raised a hand and pointed directly at her. Then, as if in one swift motion, he lunged forward and disappeared. Emma slammed the window shut and bolted the door. But the house seemed to close in on her, shadows stretching and twisting into grotesque shapes. She could feel breathing in the dark corners, hear whispers crawling under the floorboards. The next morning, Emma packed everything she owned and fled, leaving the house and that nightmare behind. Years later, Emma still feels the weight of those glowing eyes watching her from the shadows, the echo of that low, guttural voice whispering just beyond hearing. And sometimes, in the dead of night, when the wind is just right, she hears the faintest scratching at her window. Number 2. Ben and Marcus had always been drawn to the dark and unknown, but nothing prepared them for the nightmare that awaited at Black Hollow Cemetery. It was a night swallowed by thick, choking fog, the kind that smothers sound and twists the senses. Their flashlights barely cut through the oppressive darkness as they pushed past the rusted iron gates, which groaned like tortured souls as they swung open. From the moment they stepped onto the cracked, uneven path, the air grew colder, heavier, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The smell of damp earth was overpowering, mixed with something acrid and metallic that made their stomachs churn. As they moved deeper, the shadows between the tombstones seemed to pulse and shift, and the silence was broken only by faint whispers, like children murmuring secrets just beyond hearing. Without warning, a sharp, chilling giggle echoed from behind a crumbling mausoleum. Ben spun around, shining his light, but all he saw was a faint, flickering silhouette. A little girl no older than 7, with pale skin so translucent it almost glowed. Her eyes were black voids, empty yet somehow watching. Her lips moved in a slow, eerie chant, unintelligible but hypnotic. Suddenly, she vanished, leaving behind a cold gust that slammed the cemetery gates shut with a thunderous bang. Panic surged through their veins. "We should leave," Marcus whispered, voice shaking. But the path wasn't the same. Graves seemed to rearrange themselves, the stones shifting so they were hopelessly lost. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a sinister chorus of voices chanting their names, calling them deeper into the darkness. Then came the tapping, soft, deliberate, like fingernails drumming on stone. It echoed from all directions. Suddenly, the ground beneath Marcus's feet erupted as a withered hand clawed out, gripping his ankle with crushing strength. He screamed as a corpse, pale and rotten, pulled itself free from the earth, eyes burning with malevolence. More hands burst forth, grasping, dragging, desperate to pull them down into the cold, suffocating soil. Ben scrambled back, heart hammering, but a cold breath brushed his neck. A child's whisper, "Don't leave us." He whirled to see a dozen ghostly children, faces twisted in sorrow and rage, their hollow eyes reflecting the moonlight like dying embers. They reached out with spectral hands that passed through flesh but left a biting chill. A sudden, violent shaking split the ground, tombstones toppling around them with deafening crashes. The air filled with screams and laughter, an unholy symphony of madness. From the shadows, a tall, gaunt figure emerged, mask cracked and eyes hollow, jerking toward them with unnatural speed. Ben barely dodged its grasp as it lunged, its breath fetid and cold like death itself. Marcus grabbed Ben's arm, dragging him through a maze of shifting graves. Whispers became voices, voices became screams, echoing torment that clawed at their sanity. The cemetery warped impossibly. Paths looped, gates vanished, and in every dark corner, pale faces pressed out from the earth, mouths opening in silent screams. They reached a broken tombstone where the little girl appeared again, her voice a chilling lullaby that echoed inside their heads. "Stay forever, play forever." Her black eyes pierced their souls as ghostly hands reached to pull them under. With a blood-curdling scream, Ben and Marcus burst from the cursed grounds, collapsing outside as the gates slammed shut behind them, sealing the horrors within. But the nightmare was not over. At night, Marcus hears the tapping at his window, the soft giggles that slip through the walls, and the little girl's voice calling him back to Black Hollow. Neither man has dared to return, yet the cemetery waits, alive, hungry, and patient, ready to claim new souls foolish enough to cross its threshold. Number 3. 5 friends, Ethan, Mia, Lucas, Sarah, and Dylan, set out for a weekend hike deep into the Appalachian wilderness. They craved isolation, fresh air, and escape from their hectic city lives. The mountains were vast and ancient, filled with legends that none of them took seriously. But those legends are born from truths darker than any of them could imagine. Daylight faded as they ventured farther from the trailhead, the dense forest swallowing their path. Towering trees loomed overhead, their twisted branches blotting out the sky. The air grew heavy and cold, the silence so complete it pressed in on them like a physical weight. Their flashlights barely cut through the thickening dusk. Ethan led, but after a while, the trail became faint, almost vanished. Lucas frowned. "Are we sure this is the right way?" Before anyone could answer, an unnatural stillness fell. The forest, once alive with birds and insects, was suddenly silent. Not a breeze stirred. Then came a sharp, unnatural crack, like a branch breaking, but no one was near. Mia's flashlight flickered. She cursed under her breath and tried to steady it. Out of nowhere, a harsh, guttural growl echoed, low and rumbling, vibrating through the trees. Everyone froze. It wasn't a bear or any animal they knew. It was something else. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, grotesque and towering. Its shape was humanoid but wrong, limbs too long and bent at strange angles, skin mottled and stretched tight like old leather. Its face was a horrifying mask of flesh and bone, eyes glowing faintly with an unnatural amber light. It moved with terrifying speed and jerky, unnatural motion. The friends scattered in panic, their flashlights swinging wildly. Sarah tripped, falling hard on the rocky ground. The creature was upon her in a flash, its claws scraping the earth as it lunged. Ethan grabbed her arm, yanking her away just in time. They ran blindly, heart pounding, lungs burning. Behind them, the creature let out a blood-curdling howl that shook the very forest. Branches whipped at their faces as the dense underbrush clawed at their legs. Voices, deep, guttural snarls mixed with distorted human speech, echoed all around. The friends realized with horror that the creature could mimic their voices, calling their names from the darkness, trying to lure them apart. Dylan called out, "Don't listen, it's lying." But the voice answering him was not his friend's. It was the skinwalker, twisting his words into threats and promises. The friends regrouped near a fallen tree, breathing hard, trying to calm their terror. They knew the skinwalker was hunting them, a creature born of ancient curses, a shapeshifter that tore its victims down to steal their skin and voices, wearing them like masks to deceive and destroy. Suddenly, Mia's flashlight caught movement, a shadow darting between trees, too fast to track. A guttural hiss exploded behind them. Tyler spun around but found only empty forest. Then, without warning, the ground beneath Lucas gave way. He screamed as roots and dirt swallowed him, pulling him down into a hidden pit covered by leaves. His cries echoed up, raw and desperate. The friends tried to pull him free, but the skinwalker appeared again, blocking their way. It raised a twisted hand, and the air went icy cold. The creature's voice, a horrible amalgam of animal growls and human mimicry, whispered, "He's mine now." In a burst of adrenaline, Ethan grabbed a sturdy branch, swinging it with all his strength. The creature snarled and recoiled, but did not flee. Instead, it vanished into the swirling mist, leaving the friends alone with the sinking pit and the fading cries of their friend. Desperate, terrified, they made their way back toward the trailhead, but the forest seemed to have changed. Paths looping back on themselves, landmarks gone or altered. Every step was haunted by the skinwalker's presence. Snapping twigs, rustling leaves, the distant echo of their own voices calling from the shadows. Night deepened, and the friends huddled close, shivering not from cold but from pure, primal fear. The skinwalker was patient, relentless, stalking them with supernatural cunning. Hours later, only Ethan and Mia emerged, stumbling out near the edge of the forest as dawn broke. They were exhausted, disoriented, and forever changed. Lucas, Sarah, and Dylan were never found. Ethan's voice trembles whenever he tells the story, warning against the ancient evil lurking in those mountains, a force that wears faces like masks and speaks in voices that aren't its own. The Appalachian skinwalker is real, and it waits, hungry, watching, always hunting.